Greetings, everybody. Salute. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Tap that like button on your way in. And if you're watching the replay, yeah, to get it on out the way, you ain't got to worry about it later, right? So, greetings to everybody. And I hope everybody's having an awesome Friday. I hope that everybody enjoyed their day yesterday, the 4th, and was able to spend some quality time, family members, and cracking some jokes, breaking some bread, and just going down memory lane and valuing that time, right? I hope most of us didn't have to work, though some people don't mind working on holidays. Never really bothered me because my mind is always going no matter what day of the year it is, right? That's just me though. So salute to Bolo. We got Bolo in the building. I'm so glad that everything has turned out well on your behalf, even though there's been a few hiccups. You still are persevering and moving along, and you still with the land of the living. So God bless us for that. We got Miss Thrower in the building. Hello to you, beautiful lady. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. We got Cutting Edge in the house. Thank you always for being such a support. And so yeah, you know, I'm not one for really long intros because we're gonna get right off into it, right? And the topic of discussion is the breakdown of the nuclear family. I'm one to always, I want to know the whole story. I want to know not just why we are here, but how did we get here? Because you can't really formulate or make logical analysis for solutions if you really don't know the origin or the history of how we got to this point currently, right? And the nuclear family, I see Bolo commented already, and he said it's everything. It is everything. That's why there has been such fervor for that to be disrupted, for the nuclear family to be dismantled, for it to disintegrate. And it's been very methodical, extremely methodical. And I'm hoping that more people at least tune in, if not on the live, on the replay, because this affects everybody. This doesn't, just affect even the families that have two-parent households. It still affects you because we have to know and understand that there is still an agenda and that there's still a purpose. And what is the word I'm looking for? It is still in play that whatever nuclear families we do have, they have found, the powers that be have discovered the immense amount of power that they are able to have in dominion when the family is separated. And so now the fervor has increased, in my opinion. You look at the rap music, you look at just the music industry as a whole, how we've been desensitized to women not being modest anymore. I remember there was a time where there were women that would walk into a public place, whether it was a grocery store, a mall, somewhere where there were other families. We're not talking about hookah bars or clubs where there were specifically geared toward adults, but we're talking about family-oriented and structured environments, like even theme parks like Disneyland, things of that nature. And people used to be mortified, or they used to be personally offended when women carried themselves and dressed in a fashion to where they showed pretty much everything they had to offer through their clothing and left nothing to the imagination. And now it's like you even have grandmas and great grandmas walking around with these tight fitting, joggers on, workout pants, tights. There used to be such a thing as slips under dresses. There is no such thing anymore. You see through people's dresses, and I have sons. And personally, I get really irritated and offended because it's everywhere. I don't care where you go, it's everywhere. And there's a natural proclivity for males to look. You can't blame them, but why is it that we have to advertise to people we don't even know, to share something so personal and so valuable, or should be valuable? Because collectively, there doesn't seem to be a lot of value in that either. But leaving something to the imagination is what my generation always classified it as being, or they would say, you don't have to give all your business away to people that you'll never see again. What is the purpose? So what is there when you finally do get into that situation or that position where you want a family, or you want to present yourself in a manner for a particular mate that you have your eyes or your attention on, but because you've given all your secrets away prematurely, you've left nothing to the imagination, that mate may not look at you the same. They may not want you the same. It may not be reciprocated on an even playing field because there's no chastity. There's nothing that you found or find valuable to the point where it's okay to share something, to save something, to share with that person that deserves it, or that earns it, or that, has earned that spot in your life that you can be vulnerable with and share those things with. Why walk outside and share it with the world? And again, not to belabor the point, however, this is so multi-layered, and there are so many different weapons being used to dismantle and to just totally disintegrate, in my opinion, and annihilate the nuclear family, that we have to talk about some things and we have to bring some things to the forefront. Because the truth of the matter is, y'all, is that when you're dealing with a lot of single parent households where the mothers have to work, the fathers are absent in the homes, or if it's vice versa, right? In some cases it is. They're just not taught that. It's not being instilled into the children. And so they're going to emulate what they see. And being in the information age where we have all of these social media platforms, and there's so much detrimental information being put out, that it's raising those kids that aren't being raised at home. And so there's just a lot of information that has been lost and is being lost through the generations because of, the state of the world, of the demand of the world, the time shortening, the demands of parenting when you have a one-parent household, when it took two to procreate and bring life into this world, right? And so these things are important, and they're important to talk about. So real quick, hey, Joy, thank you for coming in. We got Grower Tech G in the building, and we got good old Mel W. Brother, salute to you. I appreciate y'all coming through, typing in the chat. And And so, yeah, let's go ahead and kind of just go through a little bit of history. So there is a particular um, woman that I follow and have been following for some amount of time now, and she speaks the truth a lot and echoes a lot of my sentiments. And she's an older woman, she's more seasoned, and she has spent her life's mission and passion screaming from the rooftops, for the lack of a better term, to our women, trying to, because she is the author of this wonderful book called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. And she wrote that book it was published in 1989, right? And here we are in 2024, where this is like, the subject is super relevant to the point where it really gives credence to her publication as being timeless, or she was before her time to be able to foresee just a lot of the things of what we're going through at this particular moment, right? So, yeah, let's just, no further ado. I just want to give a little bit of a preface so I can kind of expound and add my little 2 cents into the conversation, but nobody can say it like she can. So, give me just a moment, y'all.
We were taught to demand things from you to prove your manhood that the white power structure systematically kept you from getting. And so that puts you in a position of not being able to win over us if the basis was going to be if you could provide for us and our children. And so contemporary ideas came in about it. Welfare came in, which allowed you as Black men to walk away from your responsibility, because the white man's welfare system and his food stamps and all of those things, that became our support system. We was married to the government. They were taking care of us, so they became our man figure.
Oh, y'all, my mouse is cutting up. Hold on a second. Ooh. Now, what is this? So let's break that down real quick, right? Because she dropped a whole bunch right there, but she said it in such a fashion that it needs to be repeated. Women were taught to demand things from our men to prove that our men's manhood, to our men's, let me say that, let me rewind that. Women were taught to demand things from our men to prove your manhood that the powers that be systematically prevented you from getting. So it was a setup from the beginning, if you really want to break it down as to what she's saying. So it was intentionally constructed to where the women would our natural proclivities and our natural instincts would ask and require certain things of our mate, of our male mates, right? That all of us are living in a construct that was set up to prevent those men from being able to obtain and provide those things to the family, to the nuclear family, to the family core, right? And so to me, it's sad, but it's true. And we can't ignore that. And then you have to add to the insult to injury. We are living in a time where women, it seems very easy for women to disrespect our men. Okay, so if they're getting it from the system, they're getting it from the government, their hands are tied, it's not set up for them to be successful, but to fail. The odds are against them, and you have no peace at home, or you have no place to call home because you lack that family unit, or you lack that. That is God gifted. That is by design by God. And so when that is amiss, guess what? There's something missing. It's hard, if possible, to serve God's purpose for your life when what He designed for us is not in its natural order of things, right? And so to me, that's like super, super important. We when it came to it being systematic, look at all the different avenues it came from. So it stems from the government, the welfare programs where they provide Section 8, they provide food stamps, they provide medical benefits to those that may, and the requirement is that they can't be a father in the home. So the government is the father. The government has become your man because that's your provider. And so, therefore, they have the power to tell you what to do, or they'll withdraw those, what you call benefits, right? And so they replaced what God had intended and set up in the first place in the home without, and that's okay. So I got to be careful because I don't know. Now that I am monetized, I have to really, I will be careful to an extent, but I won't, right? I'm still going to say what I need to say, but I still have to be selective about what I say and how I speak it and still get the point across and convey it, right? Because the truth still has to be told. And there is no price on that for me. It really isn't. This is the reason why I'm here. Because most of us may be aware, but then there are some of us that have no clue because we haven't been in the right environment, or we haven't been surrounded by the right people. We have not been in a situation where we have elders, where we have big mamas, where we have people that even are willing to sit down and have these discussions and have these conversations. Nobody's interested, or I won't say nobody, many are not interested because it doesn't yield immediate satisfaction or gratification. And we're living in a microwave ready society where we want everything here and we want it now. We don't care about 5 minutes from now. And so we're breeding an environment and a culture of single mothers, and we're talking 70%. So we want to put a number on that. We're speaking of 70%, right? And the fact of the matter is that we are having a generation or 2 generations of children that, one, halfway, if they're not raising themselves, social media and outside influences are raising them. And then you have ignorant parents having children passing on that ignorance. I give a lot of credit and credence to those that are willing to unlearn and relearn. It is argued that we don't pick who our parents are, but at some point we do become responsible for us, for thyself. And we have to take accountability. And when we know that something's wrong, or when something doesn't make sense, or when something lacks logic, that we seek out what is logical, what does make sense, what rings true. And if nothing else, what rings more true than our previous, what our previous journey taught us, right? So, with that being said, I just want to say that again, I am here to do my part, as small as it may be. And if it reaches one person, that's good enough for me. It wasn't time wasted, right? And so when she speaks on, first of all, I want to just, because y'all know I'm big on visuals, right? So I want to show y'all something. Look at the look in her face. I don't know what y'all see, but I can tell you what I see if you care to hear it. And if you don't, I'm going to say it anyway. But I see a woman with vision. I see a woman with wisdom. And I see a woman of certainty because she is connected to the God in her. And she is serving her purpose. And there's not a shadow of a doubt in anything that she says, because it is through a power that is working through her that she recognizes, that she trusts, that she yields to, and that she's convicted in. I just looked to the side, and on my other monitor, I saw where I stopped this expression, and to me that speaks volumes, in addition to the power of her words, right? And she's very direct, which I appreciate and I also respect. And so with that, let's just continue a little bit more and hear what she has to say.
We did what he said to do. We qualified so we could get the benefits. And it allows you for a long time to not have to deal with your responsibilities of taking care of your children. That was optional. But then by the time the 80s came, 20 years later, the white people had changed their ideas about the requirements because of the financial situation the government was in. So they wanted to punish you further by now demanding that you take care of your children, that you pay them back for any money that they took care of your children with, and that now you owe them.
Now you owe them. You owe them. That's the whole purpose behind it. When you're dealing with the nuclear family in its proper order, nobody owes anybody anything because everybody has their proper role. Everybody is given their assignment. Everybody knows why they're here, what their roles are, and what they're supposed to do. And it's reciprocal because that's how it was originally designed. But when you have the quote unquote powers that be that come in and play God, or they attempt to replace the husband and the father in the home, the male role, the masculine role, the protection role, the provision role. It gives them the power, and it takes the power away from our men. And then when we go home, if we lucky enough to have a man and we don't treat him right, or we don't understand his plight and what he's up against on a day-to-day basis, and we go home and we beat him up with our words, where does the hope come from? What motivates them outside of their children? If the burdens aren't too heavy for them to even not appreciate that, where does the hope come from? Because without hope, there's no vision. The dreams are snuffed. And without vision, you have no future. That's a fact. Because you can't see where you're going. So you're walking blindly in the dark, hoping that you come out on the other side unscathed, with no vision, no plan, no structure, no order. And so, like I said, this has been systematic, it has been methodical, and you can change what you acknowledge. The one thing I forgot to mention was the child support system. The child support system is abused. Do I agree with it even being in place? It depends. I think in cases where it is apparent that the fathers don't want anything to do with being responsible for the children, but it has gone way beyond that, way past that. And it's been weaponized to such a degree that it has discouraged men to even want to procreate in some instances, because that's a lifelong sentence, at least 20 years or more. That's a long time, especially to be told that you have to do something, or you better work. You better not be without a job, because now we're going to take your driver's license. And you can't get to work. We're going to garnish wages. We don't care what bills you got. We're going off of what you make. And we'll see you in court. And at what point, again, do we as women, as mothers, as significant others, take accountability and responsibility instead of always reacting and not giving any grace? I have, through my journey, been around people that have totally punished the father of the children for one mistake, or one, like if the father had to work a double and he couldn't come pick the children up based off of the agreed time, whether it was court ordered or whether it was through, him and the mom. He had to pay for that for the rest of his life, and so did his children. Because if you think they don't suffer, you're mistaken and you're foolish. They're the first to suffer. Kids see what we do before they listen to what we say. And if they don't match up, they're not going to listen to anything, much less respect it. So, hey, Miss Yo, what's going on? Hey, sis. We got Laverne in the house. We got Oliver Green Apartments in the building. Thank y'all for being here. Hey, Cortez. Salute, salute. And anybody that I may have missed, Nate, yes, salute to you. Thank you for being here. So I know that sometimes I can get a little long-winded, but like I said, this is a multi-layer conversation, and I'm spirit-led, and I'm very passionate about this topic because the family is the beginning and the end of civilization. Without the family, the civilization dies. And it is very scary at this point because we see how dismantled and how divided the family has become as a whole and collectively. I remember there used to be a time where the single mother homes, people used to look at you with shame or shame you for being a single mom, or they thought something was wrong with you. My, how the tides have turned. And so now when you have married couples, much less couples that have celebrated 30, 40 years of matrimony or of being together and of making it work and raising families, guess what? That's the rarity at this point. Yes, thank you. Hey, Empress 13, thank you. Salute to you. I appreciate you. That's my first super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you're here. We got Mr. Oates in the building. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. The family, the nuclear family is what we're talking about today. And it needs to be important. It needs to become, if it isn't already more important than this narcissistic and this selfish I, me, self society that we have just acclimated so easily to. And we make life so much harder than it should be just to say you're independent, just to say you don't need nobody, just to say I got this, just to say I can go out and make my own money. I don't need no man. Um, you did have children if you have children. If you drive a car, at some point you're gonna need a man to put his hands on your car in order for you to be able to continue driving it. There are things and roles that women cannot fulfill. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's just what it is. So at this point, where do we go from here, right? Because until we take accountability collectively, and I'm not just talking about women, but I am speaking from a woman's perspective because I am a woman. I try to stay away from speaking from a man's perspective because I don't think like a man. I think like a woman, right? So I we all have to take accountability and we all have to be responsible. But from a woman's standpoint, if you look at the society and the cultural norm that we live in currently, women have the power. Women make change. Look at the election, the electoral process. We're talking about women electing presidents because they shift the votes. And whatever they stand behind collectively is who they will put in office. Whoever they put in office will represent a party. And we all know, if you know, you know, that whether, you know, which part, whatever party they represent, you can expect certain agendas and certain criteria to be brought forth and manifested. But that all comes from the power of women. And we have to acknowledge that. And we have to really, really accept that, right? So, with that being said, I want to go ahead and I want to just give a little bit more. We're not going to go through a lot of this. I'm going to put the link to this because this is said to be her last interview. I don't know how true that is. It was 2 years ago, but she has left a barrage and an entire portfolio of information for generations to be able to benefit from, no matter what generation is seeking her knowledge and absorbing her wisdom. She is not saying anything that's not relevant to this very moment.
And that gave them some power over you because then they passed laws where they could put you in jail if you did not pay your child support or pay them back for Medicaid, welfare, food stamps, Section 8, whatever it was. And they have fixed it now, whereas even if you die, they can come in and seize your assets in order to pay themselves back. Now,
okay. No, let her finish. She got a couple more because I'm itching to address this. Let's just hear her out.
They're not dealing at all with the fact that it's not us that owe them. They owe us.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a second. That's true, by the way. right? So if you have any, and you like, say you have parents, you have elderly parents, let's just use this as an example, that you care for, right? And they have some assets, or they have a home, or they have some land, right? And because of whatever programs they were able to get on, maybe Medicare, anything that's government subsidized, when they pass, there will be letters that come in the mail. If there's a balance owed, or if there's anything that they have fronted on their end over the amount of $500, they will seize the assets if they don't get that retribution once they pass away. So when people talk about when people pass away, their debts go with them, that's not the truth when it comes to government. And what she ended that off with the caveat, was that they got it twisted. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, unless somebody corrects me, no one I know has gotten due reparations from the government. They have people still waiting on 40 acres and a mule. But what they've done is they've systematically been able to take land that was bought and purchased through blood, sweat, and tears, and call it their own through bylaws and laws that they've created. So when I say that this thing goes deep, I don't have to tell most of you, but I still have to say it, because it is so systematic, so multi-layered, and so methodical. And there's a reason behind that. But the last piece on the chessboard before checkmate, in my opinion, like full-fledged checkmate, is dismantling the family. Because if you dismantle the family, then everybody's on their own. Everybody's in survival mode. Fear has kicked in at an all-time high. And people are not going to be as fortified, reinforced, and protected by people that they trust when you out here trying to make it happen, where there should be multiple incomes and multiple people playing or fulfilling multiple roles in order to make the family, the nuclear family, function the way that it was ordained, designed, and created to. And this is my opinion, right?
But because of their refusal to pay us, like they paid other people, the Indians, the Asians, the Jews, they paid everybody in America but us, because they think that by giving us the welfare, the food stamps, the unemployment, even all of those things, that's reparations enough for us. All of this is designed to keep you down.
And a lot of that is because we don't demand more. We're easily pacified. We're easily satisfied because we're looking at the here and now. We're not thinking generationally. When I say these things, I mean collectively. We are not thinking as a unit, sacrificially, because you have to sacrifice in order to uphold the nuclear family. And we're not living in a society where nobody really wants to sacrifice nothing but their soul. And when they sacrifice their soul, they still want something in return. And it's usually for selfish reasons, right? So when she speaks on this nuclear family and what she has seen in her lifetime and what she prophesied through her book and through her speaking publicly in arenas, is that that is the goal, and we have been asleep at the wheel because it has been so successful that we still have people walking around thinking that everything is okay because they have resources that the government has provided for them. I need for that to sink in, because as woke as people are, as some people are, there are some people that are just as asleep. And there are some of those people that are just as asleep that want to be asleep, because it will require too much of a sacrifice to unlearn, relearn, and get out of self long enough to fortify something bigger than them. And in this case, that's the family, the nuclear family unit. So there's one other, I have a timestamp. So if you just give me a second, I'd want to go to one more timestamp, and then we're going to go ahead and just kind of shift a little bit. And I'm going to drop the link. And if anybody would like to hit the link, because I think this is a conversation that requires, or that would be more received with some other voice than just mine. I would love to hear anybody else's perspective. And it doesn't matter if you're single, if you're married, if you're successfully married, if you don't have any children. We all have something in common, and that is we come from some type of family. Whether that family is a cohesive unit or not, we are still a product, and we were created and born as a product and a component of a nuclear family. Hold on, y'all.
The first hope is divine interference.
Divine interference.
And what do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
That means that we have to have God to get involved with our situation.
She just said, let me reiterate that. She just said, we have to have God in our situation. We have to have God in our situation. We have taken God out of our situation. And if we haven't taken him out, some of us don't put him first. And instead of the man being the head of the household, we took God and we removed him. The government took the man out, and now you got the mother that's left to fulfill both of those roles, and we were not designed to fill either one. God, we are made in God's image, but we are not God. We are not. I don't care what you're capable of. I believe, my personal belief, is that you are capable of, based off of the gifts and the grace and the mercy and the provisions that you have been provided in this realm, in this life. Because this is not God's world. He is in charge of it, but he doesn't have dominion, right? So therefore, it's easy to take God as well as the head of the household, because if God is in our men, then guess what? Everything is in order. Let's continue.
Because we ain't never gonna have enough bullets, hospitals, food, water, or anything else to support a war with it.
Because we don't have dominion over those resources. What is, I hear a bunch of people say it, but I hear Kwame say it a lot. Shout out to Kwame Brown, Bus Life. But I hear him say something to the effect that, if you don't have assets, you don't have land, you don't own anything, then you have no power. That's simple, but that can't be more profound, because you're at the beck and call and you're at the whim of those that do have ownership.
Help us out, sister. How would you say that spirituality and God impacts relationships overall?
Well, I think it's very important because we have an exaggerated sense of who God is and what his capabilities are. And I think that it helps give you some guidelines. Every relationship is a marriage. Every kind, with whoever it's with, your mother, your father, your sister, whoever it's with, every relationship is a marriage of sorts. And in order to have a marriage that is workable, then you must have some rules and regulations and boundaries.
Boom.
Well, rules and regulations and boundaries are not being taught anymore because nobody's teaching them. The people that's in charge of that, who is the mothers. That's all true about what is it, from the cradle and all of that about it take a village. It might, but the village is not prepared. And we are not willing, I think our women today are not willing to make the kind of sacrifices that would have to be made to get our Black nation, and we are a Black nation within a nation, to get our Black nation back on track.
Why do you think they are working so hard to provide for the Black nation, the women of the Black nation, government jobs that pay well? Because a lot of the women that have, let's just keep it a buck, a lot of the women that have government jobs that make 6 digits, that do pretty well for themselves, a lot of them don't want men. And if they do, they're not in their proper order, because a lot of times women are making more money than a lot of the men by design, systematically speaking, and then they throw it in their faces. Let's keep it a buck. They flex with it, and they remind the man, I don't need you. You're here because I allow you to be here. That's just an example, but she's right. When you offer women the ability to do something that historically they have not been allowed to do, and especially in a lot of countries in the world, it's to be self-sufficient. Now, in my seasoned years, I understand why. When I was younger, I questioned it. I really did. But as my dad used to say, keep living. Just keep living. Right? Yes. Like being a stay-at-home mother or homeschooling our children. But see, Miss Yo, that's part of the plan. It's to keep mothers in the workforce and preoccupied with surviving, to the point where we don't have time for our children. And it leaves them vulnerable and open to outside influences like their schools, the environments at their schools, what they're being taught in their schools, social media, where there's pornographic material at a fingertip. I remember growing up, my parents had cable, and even with cable, the TV would cut off at a certain time, even if it was for 2 or 3 hours. There was a dead period in television to indicate you need a break. Okay? If you're sitting in front of this all day, you need a break. Go to sleep, pray, go to church, do something other than sit in front of this idiot tube. And now you've got technology devices that are created and designed for babies. I have seen studies, and this has been just, I'm going to do a live on this one day, where there's video footage of parents actually filming their children going through straight withdrawals and temper tantrums before they can walk or talk once you take their tablets away, their little video devices. They are so addicted and so consumed. And then you have mom that's working a lot. And so when she comes home after working one or two, a double shift or two jobs, depending on what day of the week it is, what a schedule looks like, she's got to cook. She's got to make sure that the kids are tended to, the house is, halfway livable. The bills are paid, at least the immediate bills. There's food in the house. That's a lot. So by the time she gives all of that, what does she have left for her children? Again, there's a reason for all of this, because when you have children that have no rearing, you have no nation. You have no village. It's in disarray. It's whatever you want to call it, but it's not united. Nobody's on the same page. I have seen these children throw things, throw themselves, fall out, scream until they can't breathe. Think there haven't been studies done on this prior to them marketing to parents? I remember when cell phones came out, I was grown when I first got a pager. Not even talking about a cell phone. I was in my mid-20s, the first cell phone I got. Thank God I lived in a time where I wasn't born into the era that we have now. I'm grateful for that. And still, even with that, sometimes it's a struggle, because now everything is designed for us to rely on technology for everything. You lay your phone down, or you leave it, or you lose it, or it gets wet, or it's broken, and you have to go a couple days without it. Ask yourself how many phone numbers you can remember by heart. We didn't have a choice. We had pen and paper, and you memorized them bad boys, because we also had pay phones. We didn't have cell phones. Absolutely. It is our fault. It is. It is.
And what are those? And I want to get a picture of what those sacrifices might look like, by the way.
Teaching your children to have manners, teaching your children to respect their elders, teaching your children to obey, to eat their vegetables, to follow the instructions from the teachers in class, to obey, to do their chores, any instruction. We haven't taught that to our children.
Some of us haven't taught our children, but I just want to say that was, fortunately for me, that was instilled into me at a very, very early age. And it was instilled to me such that my sons have been raised that way. They, yes, ma'am, no, sir. I have one that's almost 30, and he understands the hierarchy. He understands addressing elders. Now, I will say this. The only way I would partially disagree with what she said in regards to respecting our elders is that I believe and I feel like a lot of our, or some of our elders feel that that's all they have to be in order to garner respect. They don't have to give it, but because they've lived some life, they deserve to receive it. It should be reciprocated. Just because someone is younger than you does not mean that they're worthy of disrespect because of their age and inexperience. To me, that is not being a proper elder. You're supposed to have patience. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to teach. You're supposed to impart and share wisdom, correction with love, not belittling them because they're young. You were young once as well. And let me tell you, that's where the cycle can easily be interrupted, because how many young people do you have walking around now? And one of the first things they say is that I don't respect our elders. Because again, they watch what you do. And if it doesn't coincide or parallel to what you say, that's not going to yield respect. To me, being an elder or being labeled as an elder, it comes with responsibility. And also, elders are wrong because we were raised the best way our parents knew how to raise us, but there were some things that they were taught that was wrong. Earlier in this live, I mentioned accountability and unlearning and relearning. I take my hat off to those because that's hard work. It's one thing to rear a child the way that they should go, because it's like the brain is a sponge. It's like working with a clean slate. But when you have had things instilled in you, you have had things ingrained in you from a child that you have always believed was true because you trusted those that taught you that information and those values, how could they be wrong? And then you get to a point where you start independent thinking and you start asking some questions and you start breaking some things down in your head. And you have to pursue your journey and come to your conclusions the way that you have to come to those conclusions, the way you are led, right? So I just wanted to bring that up, that it is a reciprocated, it's not even, but the elders have something that the younger generation doesn't have, and the younger generation absolutely has something that the older generation does not have. But that's where the balance can come into play. But just because you're 50 or 60 years old, what decisions have you made? Who have you positively impacted? What have you sacrificed? Do your actions align with your words? Do you act the same around your children that in their presence than you do outside of their presence? To me, that's also a great indication of where you need to be held accountable, whether it's by somebody else or through yourself. So we're going to do a little bit more of this, and then we're going to wrap it up, because I know there's a lot that has been said, and I don't want to do too much. If we need to do a couple parts of this, if I get feedback in the comments, I'm always open. But, I think definitely there's a lot that has been discussed and is being discussed during this live. So let's just go a little bit more. And let's go.
If you don't believe that, go in the grocery store with a young woman with her children and see how famished they are, running around and acting like complete fool. And the mother's usually on the phone or something. It don't even matter. Now, I'm not talking about those of us who have tried to improve on our bloodline. I don't mean that. But however, every nation is judged by its worst examples. So when people from overseas, as an example, look at the Black woman in America, they're not necessarily looking at me or some of the other women that I know. They looking at porn. Black women in porn. They looking at today Black women going on the Facebook and the Instagram shaking their naked behinds. Some of them are mothers and daughters standing next to each other, shaking their naked behinds. This is the desperation that we have and the penalty that we pay for not getting along with you.
And I want to also emphasize something too. When other nations look, or when they look at one another, I'm not just going to isolate it to them looking at us. I can use that as an example. However, they're going to look and pay attention to the lowest vibrational people. They're going to look at the worst of the nation. If you look at the news, and I don't watch the news anymore, but I used to, and I stopped because, case in point, anytime there's international news of another country, you are not going to see the beauty or the positive points of that country. They're always going to give you the vision of the lowest and the most disenfranchised and the most abhorrent behavior. They're going to show you the low of the low. And that's by design as well. If you know, you know. But yeah, I just wanted her to finish her point, but I wanted to add that as well because she's absolutely right. And she may even mention it. I remember her saying something about it, but I don't know if it was on this one or another one. So hold on, y'all.
Understood. No, not at all. Not at all. And so sometimes, you know, you need something nice and sweet to drink, but you also got to get your bitters in. And today, we about to get our bitters in today because this is the truth.
And I want to get some clarity from you because, you know, I would consider our platform a non-religious platform, but we see that the level of impact when we have certain spiritual leaders on the platform is typically larger. It'll get more viewership, it'll get more transformation. This is just things that we see from that's communicated to us through the community. Now, it also seems that the same people who are getting this level of impact and transformation are also the same people who are like, hey, you can say these principally or foundational things to be true, but don't mention God or don't mention this specific religion. So I am very curious, when you speak about spirituality, is that different from religion? And regardless of what your answer is, where should someone go to seek out spirituality?
Spirituality is in your basic nature. Your nature has been compromised by evil people who have punished you, embarrassed you, imprisoned you, enslaved you, and did a lot of things to you that they couldn't survive. But here you stand today. You stand under the power of being in the image of God. I tell black women, it could be the closest to God you ever get is being with a black man. Because you are in the image of God. And that's been the big secret. It's to make you think that you are less than God and that you had no power, authority or power on the earth. You're in the image of God. You act like God. God made you first. You're the best. You're the wisest. You're the most beautiful. You just been under some people that made you lose your way.
Did you see the smile on their faces? When she told them what she just said, she lifted them, she enlightened them, and I don't know, but my discernment says that it's never been brought to them quite like that before. That was involuntary. It was like an aha moment. Oh man, it just makes all the sense in the world as to why they invest and market and plan decades, if not centuries in advance on how to dismantle the nuclear family. And all you have to do is take the man out. If you got multiple children, one child may or may not, it will make a difference as far as being missing, but as far as the mechanical aspect of how the family operates, it is disabled when you take the man out of the home. it is limited. Everyone is affected immensely. I struggle with listening to our men, whether people feel they deserve it or they don't. I still struggle. I'm accustomed to Black men being disrespected by people that don't look like them. I expect that to a point, whether I should or I don't. That's just been the reality. But when you have a woman that procreates with that same man, or with a man that resembles that man, and I don't mean feature-wise, I mean melanin-wise, to me, I question, how is it? Hurt people, I get that. But how is it that you can become so bitter to where you defeat your own benefit and your own purpose by disrespecting every man because one has hurt you? Or it didn't work out with one that looks like him. It is disturbing but that also lets me know that the plant has been very effective to a degree, a large degree. But men are created as men with the abilities, with all of their biomedical makeup, with their features, with their strength, with their ability to be logical, a lot more logical overall than women. A lot of men are unable to lead, but realistically, the odds are not in their favor. They're being attacked, and there is war that has been waged against our men for so long. And they're only human at the end of the day. Yes, they are in the image of God, but they are in the human flesh. And so one of the reasons I really, really respect her and what she has to say is because as a woman, she is not afraid to hold women accountable and say that, yes, men do have faults, but we have power that we misuse. And you can't complain about the outcome when you abuse that power against who's supposed to be your ally, who's supposed to be your helpmate, who you're supposed to procreate with. But then you turn around and you'll call the government your man. You'll call the welfare system your provider. You'll go and you'll sit outside of an office and wait for food stamps for hours with your children in tow instead of grabbing some seeds and growing something. It's the mindset. You capture the mind, the body follows, right? So with that said, I could go on. First, I want to say thank you to everybody that has been here. I hope that you are leaving with something new that you didn't come with, or at least from a different perspective, right? We got Baldhead Wayne in the building. Thank you so much. I saw that you blessed the platform financially. I always appreciate you. Thank you so very much. We got CX in the building, and yes, so sad but true, Miss Joy. I know. Sometimes these conversations, I don't expect a lot of people to clue in, but you know what? They need to be had. Sometimes those things need to be talked about because there's enough garbage out there. There's enough untruths out there. There's enough narratives out there to where it can be swayed either way, right? Any way to, the yielded outcome, the desired outcome. And so I just want to say the nuclear family is the answer. It has always been my opinion, and it will always be my opinion. And it will always be my goal, if nothing else but to share it I have experience with a nuclear family. I also have experience when my parents passed. That nuclear family shifted majorly. So I've seen it from both sides. And let me tell you, I would rather have my family any day of the week with our issues than to not feel like you have no one. Right. And I don't feel like I don't have, I'm just saying there are a lot of people that do. There are a lot of people that do. And so, oh, I did say I was going to drop the link. So I'm going to give it a minute. I hope somebody does hit the link. I would love to have a conversation or hear what, you definitely have to share. I definitely am open for different perspectives. I think there are many solutions to any one issue or problem. Just depends on the source and putting a plan in place, right? And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I got today, y'all. And I'm glad I was able to do this live. It's been on my heart, my spirit, and I've really been looking for I've had the topic, but I'm like, I really want to look for a specific message in a video that echoes definitely what I believe. And that one definitely did. So if you haven't procured that book, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, that is a must have publication in each household, in my opinion, if you are melanin rich in your family, right? It is a must have. They also have one where it's the guide to understanding the Black man for the Black woman. So there definitely are two perspectives, and it yields balance. There's great information and enlightenment. And like I said, she's been speaking before her time, in my opinion. She's been speaking on things that are just now manifesting 40 plus years ago. So with that being said, yeah, we are. And I definitely encourage that our children become familiar with these publications as well, right? So all right, I'm not going to give it too much longer. I just want to say thank you to everybody that came through the chat, those that might be catching the replay. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. For those, sometimes if you untap, if you're not getting notifications for my lives, because I am focusing on becoming more consistent. The time slot I'm still working on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a whole lot about that because there's always such a lot going on in my personal life as well as on the platform. So to me, I'm big on timing, right? But if you are not getting notifications or you feel that you're not getting, just tap that notification button to off and then go back to all, and sometimes that'll reset and kind of put things back in motion. So I feel like I'm missing something, y'all. Thank you so much to those that have blessed the platform financially today. I'm always grateful, always appreciative. And yeah, so we got, let's see who else we got. Oh, Salaya, I don't know how to pronounce that. I hate when I mess up names or am unsure. Binya, how about that? Binya, thank you for coming in. Peace and blessings to you, right? Yes, CX, read that. It's been out for a long time. I remember reading it back in 91, I think was the first time that I actually purchased it and read it. And I was young then, but my mouth was open. And I remember certain points that that publication actually gave that is so relevant to now. And anytime I'll go and thumb through the book, no matter what page I stop on, whatever is being discussed on that page is going to be relevant to today, right? So I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And I'm gonna see y'all on these YouTube streets, right? So I'm not gonna do a long outro on this, but much love, peace, and blessings to everybody, and peace.